Welcome to Cyber Philosophy. Today we are going back to ancient Greece to share the supreme wisdom brought to us by the master and disciple, Plato and Aristotle.
Thank you so much for having us. We are really excited to dive into this.
Yeah, we are thrilled to have you because, well, before we even get to the Greeks, I really want you, the listener, to just imagine looking at a super detailed digital photograph on your computer screen.
Oh, that's a great way to visualize it.
Right. Like if you zoom in close enough past the individual objects, past the pixels, and even past the subpixels, all those distinct shapes just eventually disappear into this blinding blank white light.
Yes, exactly.
And what if I told you that blank white light is like exactly where the greatest intellectual rivalry in human history actually ends?
I mean, that is such an excellent way to frame the whole problem. We are going to be looking at that exact blank white light today.
Because it kind of changes everything, doesn't it?
It completely changes how we understand Western thought. We've spent so much time analyzing these two titans, and we realized something pretty crucial.
Which is about time, honestly. Because for, 2,000 years, the traditional textbook view has been that Aristotle and Plato were locked in this fundamental, irreconcilable argument.
Right, the ultimate philosophical standoff.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Raphael's famous painting, The School of Athens, you see it perfectly illustrated. Plato is the old man pointing his finger up to the heavens, right? Toward these perfect abstract ideals.
And Aristotle is the younger student standing right next to him.
Exactly. Thrusting his hand down toward the earth, toward concrete, physical reality. But our mission for this deep dive is to just throw that old conflict completely out the window.
We really are. We want to host a banquet of philosophical daylight, as you put it.
A banquet of philosophical daylight. We are looking at a revolutionary framework that fuses their seemingly opposing views into one cohesive system. And you are the author, or, the authors behind this incredible synthesis.
We are, yes. And to truly bridge that gap between them, to achieve what you might call a fusion of horizons, we realized we couldn't just keep using the same old Western analytical tools.
Right. You needed a totally different approach.
Exactly. We needed a completely different lens. So we actually borrowed a perspective from Eastern philosophy.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah. Specifically, we utilized the Huayan Buddhist concept of the sat characteristics, or what is known in Chinese as Lu Sheng.
Okay, wait. I know what you, the listener, might be thinking right now. Ancient Greek metaphysics combined with, esoteric Buddhist theology.
It sounds intimidating, we know.
It sounds like a recipe for the most impenetrable, dense lecture imaginable.
We understand that hesitation completely, believe me, but we really want to assure you this is not a theology lecture at all.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. We are using the Hawaiian philosophy strictly as a structural tool. Think of it as like a new kind of operating system for the mind.
An operating system. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and we have divided it into three core dimensions. Substance, which we call Onticality, appearance, which we call Noeticity, and function, which we call Praxicality.
Okay, Onticality, Noeticity, Praxicality. Got it.
And we didn't design this structure just to, settle some dusty academic debate. We designed it to help anyone navigating today's overwhelming information landscape.
Which is all of us, basically.
Exactly. It helps you understand how existence, knowledge, and our daily actions are all just deeply, deeply interconnected.
I can definitely get behind a new mental operating system, especially today. But man, we have to get over that first major hurdle.
The 2,000-year-old debate.
Yeah. For millennia, brilliant minds have treated Plato and Aristotle as complete and total opposites.
Yeah.
So how do we even begin to bridge a gap that wide?
Well, we have to start at the absolute foundation of reality. Before we can even talk about knowledge or action, we have to start at the ontological summit.
Okay, the summit. Take us there.
In our framework, this is substance, or onticality. This represents the ultimate metaphysical truth of the universe.
So like the base layer of reality.
Exactly. Now, in the Hawaiian tradition, substance isn't just the static block of matter. It actually has two distinct simultaneous faces.
Two faces, what are they?
The first is universality, which represents the ultimate one, or pure emptiness. And the second is speciality, which represents the many or concrete defined being.
The one and the many. Emptiness and being. Okay, let's break that down because that's a lot. How does the many actually map onto our Greek philosophers?
Let's look at speciality first. The many refers to the defined boundaries of reality. It's, What makes a tree, a dog, and a table, a table?
Right, the stuff that separates things.
Exactly. In our framework, this maps directly to Aristotle's concept of pure form, or eidos in the Greek. For Aristotle, a thing's form is its essence.
So eidos is the definition of a thing.
Yes, it is the absolute maximum definition. And we also map this to Plato's form of the good.
Okay, Plato's form of the good.
Right. Both of these concepts represent the highest ideals, the ultimate definitions that give the universe its diverse, specific characteristics.
So pure form and the form of the good represent maximum thingness. It's reality carved up into these perfect, distinct categories. That totally makes sense. But what about the other side? The one.
That's where we flip to the other face of substance. Universality. This represents absolute emptiness.
Absolute emptiness.
Yes. We see this operating in Aristotle's concept of prime matter, or materia prima, and also in Plato's concept of the receptacle, which he called the chora.
Okay, let me pause you right there. Because when most people hear the word matter, they think of physical stuff, right? Like wood, metal, plastic.
Right, they think of tangible things.
Yeah. But materia prima isn't physical stuff, is it?
No, it is not. And this is such a crucial distinction. Materia prima is the absolute formless void.
Wow. Formless void.
It is pure, unadulterated potentiality. It has absolutely no boundaries, no shape, no weight, and no defining characteristics whatsoever.
That's so hard to wrap my head around.
Think of it this way. Imagine a block of marble before the sculptor even touches it. But then strip away the marble itself until only the bare possibility of a statue remains.
Only the possibility. Okay, I see.
Because it has no boundaries to separate one thing from another, it effectively unites everything. It is the ultimate one.
And what about Plato's version? The Torah.
In Plato's dialogue, the Timaeus, his concept of the chora operates in the exact same way. It is this amorphous, boundaryless space that simply receives forms.
Okay, so we have maximum definition, Aristotle's eidos and Plato's form of the good on one end of the spectrum.
Correct.
And we have maximum emptiness materia prima and the chora on the exact opposite end. Traditionally, people treat these as absolute polar opposites, right?
Always. And here is the mind-bending synthesis we propose. They are not opposites at all.
Wait, really?
They are a continuous loop. When you push extreme emptiness to its absolute logical limit and you push extreme perfection to its absolute limit, they actually meet.
They meet.
They are the exact same thing. Our framework concludes that ultimate reality is, well, we say, is one is many, not one, not many, precisely one, precisely many.
Hold on. So you're saying that for 2 millennia, we've treated them as these bitter enemies, when in reality, they were describing the exact same loop just from opposite starting points.
Yes, exactly that.
That completely rewrites how I understand philosophy. It goes back to that digital photograph analogy I mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, pure form is the photo full of distinct boundaries and colors, but if you zoom in infinitely close, past the pixels, you completely lose all definition.
You hit universality.
Yes, you hit the blank white screen. Aristotle's formless matter and Plato's highest good are literally the exact same blank screen.
That digital photo analogy gets you halfway there, actually, but we have to push back on it just slightly.
Oh, okay, why is that?
Because a photograph implies a static image. What Plato and Aristotle are actually describing, when viewed through this wine lens, is a highly dynamic engine.
A dynamic engine, meaning it's moving.
It is constantly vibrating. It's vibrating between the formless potential of the chora and the defined essence of eidos.
Wow.
They are the same base layer of reality, just viewed from opposing directions. By stripping away all that historical baggage, we achieve a true fusion of horizons between the two thinkers.
Okay, I see the distinction now. It's alive. It's not just a frozen picture. But man, that realization brings up a massive, glaring problem for me.
What's that?
If ultimate reality is this dizzying, vibrating loop of absolute emptiness and absolute perfection, how on earth does the human brain process it?
Right, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. I don't walk around experiencing a vibrating loop of potentiality.
Yeah.
I experience sitting in a chair, drinking my coffee and reading emails.
Which is exactly why we cannot stay at the ontological summit. We have to move down to the second stage of our framework.
Okay, moving down. What is the second stage?
It's appearance, which we call noeticity.
Yeah.
This is the realm of epistemology, the realm of knowledge.
Knowledge, so how we know things.
Exactly. It explains how our brains generate a usable world model to bridge the gap between ourselves in this messy physical world and that ultimate unified truth.
So if reality is the blank screen, noeticity is kind of like the software drawing the shapes on it so we can actually use the computer?
That is a very apt way to describe it. We see noeticity as the necessary medium, and it operates through two distinct cognitive characteristics.
Which are? Difference
and similarity. Let me ask you, to know anything at all in this world, what is the very first thing a human mind has to do?
I suppose it has to draw a boundary. It's like if I look at a forest, I have to mentally separate one tree from the background to even know it's a tree.
Exactly. You must separate a thing from everything else around it. You literally carve a boundary out of the void.
Right.
In our framework, this characteristic of difference maps directly to Plato's concept of division, or the other, which he called diaresis.
Diaresis.
And it also perfectly aligns with Aristotle's concept of differentia, or diaphora. It is the fundamental cognitive act of saying, well, this is not that.
Oh, I get it. Think about like a toddler learning to speak. They point at a dog, and the parent says dog.
Yes.
Then they point at a cat, and the parent says, no, that's a cat. The toddler's learning diaphora. They were learning exactly how the cat is fundamentally different from the dog.
That's a perfect example. But drawing boundaries isn't enough, is it?
I guess not.
Because if the toddler, or any of us, only saw differences, the world would just be a chaotic, fragmented mess of billions of isolated objects.
Right. There would be no predictability at all.
Exactly. So once we have established differences using diaphora, our brains must immediately find commonalities.
Yeah. The similarity part.
Yes. This is the characteristic of similarity. We see this mechanism in Plato's concept of collection, or the same, known as synagoge.
Synagoge.
And we see it in Aristotle's concept of genus, or genos.
Genos, like generating a broader category.
Yes, precisely. The mind takes the dog and the cat, which it just separated, and groups them together under the broader genus of mammal.
Wow.
We use difference to distinguish and similarity to connect.
You know, it's amazing how this ancient Greek framework perfectly describes exactly what's happening at the cutting edge of Silicon Valley.
Oh, the AI connection, yes.
Yeah. Think about how modern AI and large language models work.
Yeah.
You feed an AI a massive chaotic data set, right?
Yeah.
Billions of text fragments.
Right.
How does it learn? It plots points in a high-dimensional vector space solely based on how similar or different words are to each other. It literally finds the diaphora and the synagoge.
It really does. It's the same mechanism.
The AI is building a bridge of knowledge out of differences and similarities.
Yep.
But wait, if knowledge, whether it's human or artificial, is just this dynamic sorting mechanism.
Yes.
If it's just drawing artificial lines in the sand, doesn't that mean absolute truth doesn't actually exist in the knowledge layer?
That is the profound realization we really hope people take away from this. In our framework, knowledge is fundamentally biased.
Fundamentally biased. Wow.
It has to be. It is merely a temporary bridge, a cognitive construct we use to approach reality, but it is not the reality itself.
Because it's all just drawn boundaries.
Exactly. Because knowledge relies on drawing those artificial boundaries, biases and diaphora. It is always a fragmentation of the ultimate one.
I'm not going to lie, that is slightly terrifying. It means every mental model I have, every framework I use to understand politics or my career or my relationships is just a temporary illusion made of boundaries.
It can feel destabilizing, yes.
It leaves me wondering how I'm supposed to actually live my life.
Yeah.
I can't just sit in a cave paralyzed by the fact that my knowledge is biased.
Yeah.
You know, I have to go to work. I have to make decisions.
And you do. We cannot live in pure, formless potentiality. That's impossible for humans.
Right.
And that leads us to the final and perhaps most important stage of our framework. Function, which corresponds to Praxicality.
Praxicality. Okay.
This is the realm of ethics, action, and living in the physical here and now.
Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. How do Plato and Aristotle help us actually act?
Well, just like substance and appearance, function operates through two complementary characteristics.
More pairs. Okay.
The first is integration. We must build structures, form habits, and take definitive action. We map this drive to Plato's concept of participation, or methexis.
Methexis.
Yes. This is the conscious act of bringing those perfect, abstract ideals down to earth and acting them out in the messy real world.
So applying the ideals.
Right. You cannot just contemplate the idea of justice. You must act justly in your community.
It's taking the blueprint and actually hammering the nails to build the house.
Oh, that makes sense.
And how did Aristotle view this integration?
For Aristotle, we see integration in his truly beautiful concept of entelechy, or intellekia.
Intellekia.
This is the process of an entity realizing its inner potential and purpose. For example, an acorn has the entellekia to become a mighty oak tree.
Oh, I've heard that analogy before.
And a human being has the potential to become a flourishing, rational citizen. We actively integrate our knowledge into physical reality to achieve our purpose.
That makes total sense, and it perfectly describes modern society, I think. We build the company, we write the code, we form the relationship.
We are constantly integrating.
We are obsessed with integration. We want to accumulate more data, more productivity hacks, more habits. We are totally desperate to build out the money.
We are.
But you mentioned there are two characteristics. What is the counterpart to integration?
The counterpart is disintegration.
Disintegration.
And this is the ultimate philosophical twist in our entire synthesis. We argue that to reach true wisdom, you cannot become permanently attached to the very structures you just built.
Wait, really?
To survive, you must actively embrace disintegration.
But disintegration sounds inherently destructive. Like it just sounds like failure.
It is destructive, but it is a necessary creative destruction. Think of a forest fire clearing out the dense, dead underbrush so that new seeds can finally receive sunlight.
Okay, that makes sense.
We map this crucial mechanism to Plato's concept of catharsis. In his later dialogues, Plato describes this as a sort of philosophical death.
A philosophical death.
Yes, a conscious letting go of worldly attachments, physical senses, and rigid dogmas that basically no longer serve you.
Wow, and Aristotle's equivalent. Did he have a concept for clearing out the deadwood?
He did. We find it in his physics, the concepts of privation, or steresis, and corruption, or phthora.
Steresis and phthora.
Aristotle understood that the destruction of an old state is absolutely required to allow for the generation of a new one.
Right. You can't have both at once.
Exactly. You cannot have ongoing life, adaptation, or learning without the continuous disintegration of outdated forms.
You know, I'm thinking about a space rocket launching into orbit. It's actually a perfect metaphor for this.
Oh, how so?
Well, the massive booster rockets on the side, that's integration. They are packed with fuel, incredibly heavy, and absolutely necessary to escape Earth's gravity. You have to build them.
Yes, you need that power.
Right. But once you reach the upper atmosphere, if you don't jettison those boosters, if you don't engage in disintegration or phthora, they just become dead weight.
They do?
We will literally drag the entire ship back down to crash. You have to confidently blow them off to reach the weightlessness of space.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. If you cling to the heavy boosters of your past knowledge, you paralyze yourself.
You just crash back down.
In our framework, true wisdom is not a static repository of facts. It is a dynamic flow. You must build the cognitive structure integration, the methexis, to solve the problem directly in front of you.
Right, you build the boosters.
But once that problem is solved, or once your environment changes, you must be willing to ruthlessly discard that rigid dogma. That is the catharsis.
But letting go.
By letting go, you return to a state of being open, free, and decentralized. You return closer to the materia prima, the pure potentiality.
It's incredible how much this reframes basically everything we do, especially right now, as you pointed out, when we are drowning in information overload.
It's vital right now.
Yeah, every time you, the listener, read a new article, learn a new mental framework, or form a strong opinion at work, you are actively participating in this ancient cycle.
You really are.
You are drawing boundaries out of the void, moving from substance to appearance using diaphora. You are building a model to take action in your life, function as integration, the intellekia. But the most vital step, the step modern culture almost completely ignores, is having the courage to let it all go. The rocket boosters.
We really hope that by mapping Plato and Aristotle onto this fluid cycle, we can help people see that ancient philosophy isn't just about memorizing dead ideas or, choosing a side in a 2,000-year-old debate.
It's way more than that.
It's a living engine for processing reality. The tension between Plato and Aristotle was never a flaw. It was the mechanism of the engine itself.
It really is a living engine. We've gone from the blank canvas of ultimate reality to the artificial boundaries of human knowledge, all the way to the daily necessity of building up our lives and tearing down our dogmas.
It's quite a journey.
It is. And it leaves me with one final, pretty provocative thought for you to ponder as you go about your day.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, if every piece of knowledge you acquire and every mental model you work so hard to build is meant to eventually be discarded, if throwing off the rocket boosters is the only way to reach that state of pure, open potential, then what closely held belief or absolute certainty are you clinging to right now that you desperately need to finally let go of?
That is the perfect question to ask.
Thank you for listening. We hope this has been helpful and inspiring to you. See you next time.